Well, welcome back. Today we're going to discuss very important items.
Yeah. We're into it.
Super hardcore into it. We are going to be discussing why loft spaces...
Basements, you laugh.
Okay, get it together. Very serious.
Oh yeah, get it together.
No, we're going to be discussing why loft spaces are the shit. Although we do also like loft, balconies, mezzanines, oh my. I
All
guess.
of that stuff.
Yeah, totally. All right, so basically we're going to be talking about the different types, right? We're going to be talking about why they're awesome, which that was going to be like a 5-second session, really, because they are. And how we're sold and how we constantly are trying to get them into every single thing we do.
If we can.
I know. And I swear to God, like never, I can't think
They're
of
made
one...
to be squeezed into things.
I know, but I can only think of I can't even think of a project off the top of my head that has gotten built where we've actually, so before I get depressed, let's get happy. Okay, so alleyways. Okay, well let's start in England. Shed Thames. Oh, this freaking photograph.
Yeah. This
my
photograph is a little bit, it's hard because there's so much texture already going on.
Yeah.
Like, just without the balconies. But,
True.
And walkways. There's still enough kind of
it's a little
texture
manipulative.
and mystery to it.
Yes.
Just the alleyway itself.
Yeah.
And then you add those in.
Right.
And you want to go.
But good point. I think that even if you didn't have the balconies or the bridges in there, that perhaps it would already, sectionally speaking, like you're saying, like the height of the section and the narrowness of the section and the light sources and stuff would already, because you have an incredibly textured surface on both sides that implies all kinds of activity beyond those walls, right?
Yeah.
Even if the walls were somewhat, maybe less, penetrated, they have less holes, more obfuscated, I still think it'd be cool, but then you add in the walkways.
Yeah, you still want to go to that.
Oh my God. I know. So that's Shed Thames. This is not even a real place.
Yeah.
But it's because 80,000 fantasy art people always draw these spaces because they are so cool.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have a lot of, they're just so cool.
Yeah.
You can't, I don't know who wouldn't want to.
Right. Well, it's kind of like the people who don't like puppies. You'd have to be suspicious.
Well, there's bad people.
Right. But we'll get into why later. Oh, and then I also really love in alleyways when they have like a suspended room like in the middle like that. Oh.
Yeah, because that space itself is cool. You can really imagine being there, looking down into.
Right. You project yourself into it. Yeah. And again, this is similar but different, Venice, with the hanging room in between. And then, of course, I know. And you just went... Did you not go to Rajasthan? You weren't even close.
No, we did go to...
You did?
Well, we went to Jaipur, which is part of Rajasthan. But we didn't get to go... We didn't see as much of these types of...
Okay.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of ornamentation going on here, but it makes for really cool interstitial spaces because all of the balconies are different. Every single one.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
It's not like, for economy's sake, we're going to pre-manufacture.
The labor.
I know. Like, we're only going to do one balcony detail and we're going to reuse it 80 million times. It's like every balcony's different. It's kind of like associated to the person who owns the space or whatever. It has... So when you have... a space or a surface that is modeled like that, where obviously there's no discernible pattern, then it starts to really have a life of its own.
This one,
and of course, this is our freaking.
This is like the muchness that I like, like where there's so much going on. Every single
muchness is a real word.
Every single balcony has a million things going on with it, and they're all something to look at. It's a little intense for the eyes, but I like it.
Like, I'm up for the challenge though, right? Okay, hanging spaces.
Oh,
yes. All right, so this is cantilevered, maybe it's not technically hanging.
Yeah.
But it is kind of hanging its butt out there. I mean, like, and again, we'll talk about why. Maybe we're just kind of talking right now about the examples, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh.
Right? I know. Again, this must be one of those places where there's
floating in the
zero
middle.
like OSHA requirements or like, you know, code enforcements or whatever.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. That's handicap accessible.
Is the riser height, you know, code worthy there? I'm not sure about that handrail, you know.
Does it matter for that one?
And then this is a more typical one, right? A more typical
and this
kind
is
of
cool because it's an outdoor kind of hanging space.
Yeah, right. Inserted into the indoor space. Down for that kind of a courtyard hanging space.
Float a courtyard in the middle of a house.
Okay, you know I was going to stick this in there. Because the elephant room from Moulin Rouge. I know, you've been forced to digest this visual many, many times. Because
Moulin Rouge.
Yes, duh. I mean, this is worthy. This is beyond worthy. And I must at some point build this for myself in the backyard somewhere. I don't know.
Oh, I think we can build it.
This is more austere. I don't mind it. But still sublime. And we'll talk about that later. Oh, and then let's just say that Clive Wilkinson knows how to do this right. Like, whether it's FIDM.
And he keeps getting to do it.
Oh my God.
We just need one.
It's a little
one
bit
really
like,
good one.
Like,
and then we'll get...
You know, is it Diller Scafidio or is it Schiller Defidio? It's
Diller Scafidio.
All right. It's Clive is up there with them for me. I hate them and I hate him because he seems to get whatever he wants built.
And this one's cool too because there's even like graphics, like floating graphics going on.
He talked someone into not only having green glass, but like let's put a big 44 on it. Do you know how many times I've done oversized graphics?
I do know.
You do know. And they never make it. Oh, and he even did this one.
This one's in San Francisco, right?
This is Try It Day. I think this was actually back in the day. This one's kind of older. I don't even think they like actually promote it anymore. But this was the first one that caught my frickin' eye. Like someone designed
materials
that.
Nice on it too.
Well, and I know that they actually went out of their way to kind of make the materials more cost effective. But I remember one builder told me, Dulcie, if you take cheap materials, if you do really unusual, funky things with the cheap materials, you've just made them expensive again.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, all right, I get it. But again, Clive Wilkinson, amazing. Again, all right.
Well, because they also make for cool spaces underneath. Like, just by doing that, it creates.
It's not just the thing. It's the spaces,
cool.
you know, on the sides, underneath. Yeah. Okay. I know.
I love the stairways.
We don't really have to say much.
I mean, give me a spiral staircase.
I know. And you know what, dude? Some of these right here.
And then you just give me
those
10,000.
Yeah, right?
There's slides.
Oh,
so really
yes. So those are stairs, but those are slides. I'm telling you.
Does that make them ADA accessible?
Well, I'm saying the waiver you need to sign before you go into this, you know, St. Louis museum must be incredible. Like, yeah, I don't mind if I lose 5 layers of skin off my back as I go down this 7-story, you know, metal slide, but it makes for the most awesome space ever, right? All right. So,
oh man, I mean, in libraries too.
There's
the
texture.
You have book texture plus balconies plus bridges, and then add the spiral staircase. I mean, it's got it all.
All little birthday kind of ones. Okay, and again, same thing. All right, we have to give a nod to this one.
Yeah, more organic, but
yeah.
And then this one has. I was gonna say
again,
this one has
a
good ass.
Yeah,
because the butt side is the best part.
Oh yeah, no question. Yeah. Can you imagine trying to talk someone into that financially? Dude, you're gonna sell so many books if you have this staircase in your store. You know, like not gonna happen. I mean, I wonder when they built it. You know what I mean? But I still drool over it
next to it.
And the overt sexuality. We won't even talk about that.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about what's going on here. You know, I am so tempted to read this quote. You
can read it.
Wait a minute.
Should read it.
Wait a minute.
I've heard this one a lot too.
I know. All right, okay. But you know what? I won't read it. But I will say that Hegel does an amazing definition of the purpose of art and beauty, right? But the main point is mostly that he's saying that art, in order to be beautiful, needs to engage the imagination. And that once you engage the imagination, it allows it to touch different parts of your soul so that you understand the deficiencies of life and are then inspired to not only have compassion for your fellow man, but to live a better one. So I'm not going to read...
It needs to do all of that.
Yes, it does. But the cool thing about this particular, I mean, Hegel, you got to give him props because he doesn't talk about it he talks about it in a very phenomenological way, right? He doesn't talk about beauty and art in a like a Platonic way where it has to be intellectual, it has to be rational, it has to be reasoned. You know, there's all the people that believe that beauty and art really can only be talked about if you remove the sensational, or if you remove the subjective, or if you remove someone's emotional reaction. But Hegel does a very good job, I think, of trying to cut that baby in half, where it has to be phenomenological, and it has to also then reach for those higher lofty words of the idea with a capital I, which you can get into that more later. And then also, if you think about it too, exactly, bachelor, I know. You know what? I'm just going to say to the camera right now. I understand the bad parts of Bachelard, and I'm fine with that. So you can skip the comments below where you tell me where he's completely stupid, and I have no right to, like, cite him as a reference, because I'm going to cite him as a reference. So if you want to engage, then we just need to engage as Bachelard as the datum here, okay? Let's just go from there. You know, we just cut that part out. I get a little aggro. All right. No, but, you know, it's Terrence Riley. And I know all of these guys, you know, whether it's Moore, Terrence Riley, Bachelard, they don't get a lot of props from the academic community because they're sentimental and they're emotional.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. And they talk a lot about these kinds of spaces from a sentimental kind of place.
But I would say
nostalgic place.
A nostalgic, and I would also say, if you're going to throw some, like, you know, big words at it, phenomenological. I mean, meaning that it has to be experienced. Right. Well, you know, you got to have the big words in order to actually substantiate one's argument. But yeah, no, meaning that, like, I get it that it's intuitive, that it's not educated, it's not erudite, and it's not reasoned out. So the danger is that you're appealing to someone's basest part of their mind, right? Is that you're wanting to tap into something that's naive, something that's intuitive, and something that could easily go very wrong in a lot of people.
That's true. That's true. Naive, but it can also, everyone can get it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the thing, is that I don't want to have to take a college course to understand why Rietvild's house makes any sense whatsoever. We'll get to that, Nathan, later. So, okay, anyway, so Terrence Riley, you know, Moore, Bachelard, oh, and Schopenhauer. Come on, let's throw him in there too. Well, because, all right, so there's two things. Go ahead, do you want to say something about that, Sublime? All right, so he says two things here. It's not just the idea that there's beauty. Beauty is like this delightful, gorgeous thing that, like, is like, ooh, pretty, you know? But the sublime is the thing that scares the pants right off of you. But in the process of being scared, you can feel the frailty of your own individual snowflakeness compared to Grand Canyon or whatever.
That's what I was going to say. It tends to be more nature-made.
Or something that's non-man-made.
Yes, I associate it non-man-made with the sublime, but I'm about trying to create that if you can.
Right. Well, I would say the Hoover Dam is man-made, but also evokes the sublime. Standing next to that, or even just looking at pictures of it, you're like, whoa. You know, it's enormous,
it's
right?
The awe.
It gets at a sense of awe, not through beauty, but through the sublime. And I think that the loft spaces and the balconies and all that can get there. So it's about these variegating forms that, you know, create envelopes which slow the gaze. All right. So the point that I didn't make before is that something can be beautiful and can engage your imagination when the eye is slowed down. And when your gaze is slowed down on the form. So if the form is so easily understandable, Farnsworth. So if the form is so simple, and you know, some people call it poetic, but if the form is so banal and so simply understood, and it doesn't slow your gaze, it doesn't necessarily evoke your imagination, right? So some of these spaces that we've been talking about, and we'll get to it, definitely slow the gaze.
You can overdo it. Sure. I mean, some of those Indian alleyways are pushing it. There's a lot of, they really slow it. There's almost too much to look at.
Totally down for being pushed that way. Totally down for being pushed that way. Please.
Yeah, it goes both ways.
As opposed to, like, you know, I don't know, Corbusier's, you know, Garche or whatever house. I mean, like, really, you know, where it's flat and there's zero and there's nothing, you know? Okay, so in the spaces that, and also in spaces that, well, speak of human scale, often do so juxtaposed to the non-human scale or the other. So, like, we're talking
back
about
to the sublime.
The sublime, exactly. And then we begin, oh, this is the best thing. And you hinted to it in a lot of the comments that you were making before, which is it speaks to paths that you've not yet taken. When you see these loft spaces and these balconies, my eye will travel to a place, and in my mind, I'll go, I wonder how you get there.
Yeah,
and it's already engaging my imagination.
Why, it's about the intrigue.
Yes, it is. It is. All right. So, okay, so let's look at a few of these examples with the idea. Like, let's start with the slowing of the gaze. As you said earlier, this alley, you said, actually pushes it a little too far. But I think it's unquestionable that this alleyway definitely slows the gaze. Yes. Right? I mean, there's just too many different things.
On the bottom, on the top, on the side, everywhere.
In the middle.
Everywhere.
Exactly.
And that's from far away. You can get closer
and there's
and
another
then look
level
at every single one of those screens, every single one of the little.
Yep.
There's
I mean, you could go to the Alhambra and just check out the sculpted layers of stuff that's happening in the. We'll cut that out.
Leave it in.
Leave it in. Gnats are part of the office. It's awful. And the same thing with the St. Louis Museum here too. Like standing at the bottom here and looking up. I mean,
there's a verticality, especially with the skylight at the top. Yeah. It has this tunnel effect.
Right. If it didn't,
but in a good way.
In a good way. If it didn't have the skylight at the top, I think it'd be a little 12 Monkeys-ish. You know what I mean? Oh. Maybe, or a little bit, Brazil. Thing. Which isn't the worst thing, but not a happy place for me.
Yeah.
And because I don't like movies that end badly, then I would not be down for that. I think you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, I do.
Okay. So let's talk about Shed Thames. Okay, so Shed Thames here. If we talk about it. And I would think that the sublime or the human scale is the thing that actually makes this kind of come out to play. You've got these huge, very tall, not huge, but they're obviously not human scaled facades.
It's the proportions.
And it's the proportion of the human being on those walkways juxtaposed to something incredibly vertical and non-human scaled. And it does... The frailty, the scale of those little, connective tissue things that happen between these two larger things, I think is what.
And those bridges aren't even. I mean, those buildings are pretty close together for how tall they are.
Right.
And there's just something about sticking them just every so often.
Right. It reinserts the human scale up against something that otherwise feels less human scaled. This one, I mean, oh my gosh, I'm talking about slowing the gaze and having it hang out in a space where
different type of texture compared to Indian alleyway.
Exactly. And a different type of hanging out space too in the middle of something that is not the scale. That interior is not human scale, but then you've got that little thing hanging out that is
and it's
human
doing
scale.
Funky things too. It's going through other materials and
so cool.
Yes.
I know.
Puncture more.
Yeah. And then again, Clive Wilkinson, you've got a little thing that is hanging off of something that's a lot more vertical. And wow, I mean, as you look at that interior, I think that's probably
this is
10
definitely
stories.
less organic, but kind of what we that vertical. I'm gonna toss out what we worked on is that Chicago vertical forest thing.
Oh
where we tried to stick a bunch of, except put trees on it.
Yeah.
Lots of trees.
Well, that's later in the
Oh, really?
Show. Oh,
yeah. This is what I get for not.
Yeah, for leaving your homework.
Yeah,
yeah. Huh. I'm so surprised. All right, so okay.
I mean, we talked about this one,
right? And
all of the things,
and it has all of it, including the paths. Like, how do I get from here to there? Trying to get from here to there. In my imagination, it engages the imagination, right? And again, this one too. How do I get? Do I go inside, and how do I get to that place? It immediately engages the imagination, and of course. The elephant room.
Build it.
Yeah, because that's happening somehow in my backyard at some point. Now, the interesting thing is that these spaces on the inside, I actually think once you get there, maybe that isn't even the point. And sometimes when you get to these loft spaces, the quality of the space is cool, but I half suspect that the seeing of them before you even get to them is 50% of the coolness of the space itself.
I agree.
Okay.
I agree.
Yeah.
Although, lofts, if we're talking about lofts, mezzanines, balconies, they all kind of tend to create odd spaces and bastard spaces.
Which I'm down for.
Yeah, which I'm down for.
Always.
So sometimes they do live up to their expectations
they do.
when you get there. Because all of a sudden you get in there and there's funky stuff going on because of what it creates in the space anyways.
Right. And it's implied, even if that box that was hanging off where it had nothing else around it, it was more of a modern corporate one. just the simple fact that you know there's nothing underneath you for stories will add. So this is where we talk about how we try to get these into every single competition we've ever done.
I mean,
yeah, I know. So in Cairo, as a library,
I forgot about the Cairo.
Yeah,
library.
remember we had like where number 2 is there. I mean, on the sketch above, it's a little bit. You can see more. It's a hanging room, but of course, like in the very second vestibule, you've got to have like a mezzanine hanging room because the program called for it.
Yeah.
And also in Detroit as well.
Yeah.
This little, I don't know. We don't
even know what it is.
No.
But I want it there.
And we need a tall space
and
that you can hang the balconies off of, and a hanging room in the middle. Duh, of course, Tustin. All right, so Tustin was the first time we did it, but this is where, all right, so props to us. I will have to say the jurors on this competition said that our competition reminded them of the St. Louis Museum.
Mission accomplished.
Well done. That's all I'm saying. I mean, I think even though we didn't make finalists and we only made semi-finalists, grumble. It's fine. Mm-hmm. I can be okay with that.
I mean, we did it, but it is so good.
Yeah. Hate to be self-congratulatory, but then there is that. And then this is Chicago, what you're talking about before too. Yeah. Why have a skyscraper if you're not going to carve out the center and hang a lot of spaces in between with trees?
Yeah.
That's just what you do.
Let's just take a forest, stack it, and fold it inward.
Inside.
And then put a bunch of spiral staircases in it.
Right?
Duh.
And the spiral staircases.
Look how good that looks.
I mean, I know. And if they're shockingly Victorian for no reason, I don't know. Maybe that works. Oh, this is a Yeats thing. It's all about, different loft spaces that you get to off of different balconies.
And this one is even kind of like...
there is nothing
It's a little different than the other ones we've looked at because they're hanging out. It's more treehouse kind of in the...
It implies...
They're just hanging out in the environment, which is an intrigue with the landscape without having to have all of these tall spaces or it be in the middle of a space, but still exactly what we're talking about.
Exactly. All right. Well, to wrap up, I don't know. What do we say? Just that loft spaces are clearly...
It's not a debate.
No. If you don't like them, I think you're missing a piece of your soul. That's it, right?
Yeah. You don't like puppies.
Yeah. All right, cool. Thank you.